We're here at GreenFin24 with Emily Pierce. Emily is the Chief Global Policy Officer and Associate General Counsel at Persefoni. Hello, Emily, and welcome.
Hello.
We're glad that you were able to join us today for this conversation. And tell us a little bit about your roles at Persefoni. What are you engaged in this year and why at this conference?
Yeah, so Persefoni is a software platform that helps companies calculate their carbon emissions, applying the GHG Protocol, so really an accounting ledger for carbon. And I'm here at this conference to engage with professionals that are leaning into how they can make better decisions based on carbon accounting information, and of course all the other issues around the topic of green finance. In my role at Persefoni, I am focused on policy issues, so in particular all the regulations around reporting that are emerging around the globe, and making sure that our product is fit for purpose to meet those regulatory demands, but also to understand how those regulatory demands are creating market drivers and market pressures that businesses need to be aware of, and how carbon accounting and an accessibility of that data will help businesses perform better in the future in the market that's emerging.
Yes, so let's talk a little bit more about this, the regulatory environment, because there are different regulations governing different economies around the world, and some economies that don't have any regulations, a lot of them, in fact, at the moment. Tell us how that is all working within the work that Persefoni does for corporate clients.
Well, Persefoni is a tool to serve corporate clients in calculating their carbon data and providing that information wherever it's needed. And regulation is certainly a driver of that demand, but actually the market demand was here first. So regulation is sort of catching up with the investor demand for information about climate risk, and carbon data being a crucial indicator of exposure to climate risk. But the regulatory drivers are real. I like to think about them in four buckets. The first, which is I think the most looming and the one that most large global corporations are focused on today in the near term, is the EU's Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. That will apply to several thousand U.S. companies as well as companies around the globe, ultimately touching almost 50,000 companies. And it does require carbon emissions reporting. You can get into all the details of the standards and such, but the bottom line is that is a regulation that is going to drive market expectations for companies to provide information about their sustainability risks, opportunities, and impacts. And that is going to impact the global economy and the business-to-business relationship. So Persefoni is helping companies be prepared for those demands for carbon information that may come from their business partners, not just regulators.
And so what we know about those regulations that are the infrastructure in the UK in this example is that U.S. companies that do a lot of business in the UK or in the EU are going to be subject to the regulatory infrastructures in those marketplaces. That's correct, right?
Several are. I think the estimates are around 3,000 U.S. companies and another 7,000 companies from other non-European jurisdictions, including some U.K. companies. But that gets me to the next big bucket, which I spoke about 4 buckets to begin with, and that is the global baseline for sustainability reporting regulations, which is the International Sustainability Standards Board, has issued standards. They're called the International Financial Reporting Sustainability Disclosure Standards. Designed, again, to elicit information about sustainability risks and opportunities, but focused on investor needs, so the financially material information that investors would need. That also includes a climate standard that's focused on the topic of climate, where, again, carbon data is one of the important metrics that companies will need to provide. So when you're looking at that is the UK, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Nigeria, South Africa, the list is growing rapidly, Korea. We're looking at countries representing almost 50% of GDP that are going to be moving towards some form of requirements of reporting based on those ISSB standards. And again, whether or not you're regulated by that particular regulation in a jurisdiction, that's going to impact market demand. Investors are going to expect this information as the common global baseline for how to communicate the right metrics and risks and opportunities, but it's also going to drive business-to-business expectations for sharing information.
So across sectors, within sectors, and for asset management firms, these are going to be crucial regulations that they have to pay attention to as well, as I understand what you're saying.
They're crucial regulations, but they're also crucial opportunities. The ISSB standards in particular are a very principles-based, rational, proportionate, scaled approach to communicating this information. And they were designed to meet the needs of different economies around the globe, as well as different sized companies around the globe and investors around the globe. So they really present an opportunity to drive efficiency in the communication around this information. And I think presents an opportunity for companies who want to have a way to communicate that information to multiple audiences in a more efficient way.
And the carbon accounting focus is really what Persefoni is zeroing in on, regardless of where the company is or what economies they're doing business in, right?
Exactly. And a silver lining of all this, we've talked about 2 of my 4 buckets here. The other 2 are the SEC and the California regulations. But all 4 of these buckets, when it comes to carbon emissions data, point to or accept accounting based on the GHG Protocol. And so what Persefoni does is provide a tool to help companies apply that protocol to their businesses, to subsets of their operations around the globe, depending where they need to report data and which organization it's tied to, and do that in a way that is assurable, so audit ready to meet regulatory demands, but again, also to be able to provide that information to different stakeholders. So that is one element of these regulations. It's the one where we believe that software is very suited to bring efficiency and cost effectiveness to the process. Carbon data is a little bit different than some of the other ESG data in that it needs activity data that needs to be transformed through a methodology and applying different emissions factors to what's called a CO2 equivalent to get that reportable emissions number. So it's a use case that technology definitely solves for. It can bring real efficiencies and cost effectiveness to hopefully to our clients.
Okay, well, great. Emily, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. Emily Pierce of Persefoni, and we're here at GreenFin24 in New York City. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.